Hello everyone, welcome to session 13 of IASbaba's Rapid Revision series or RaRe series for UPSC Prelims Examination 2021. I am Preetham Reddy and in this session I will be dealing with 10 important or 10 high probable topics from Geography Current Affairs which are important for UPSC Prelims Examination 2021. So in today's session we will be dealing with very important Geography Current Affair related articles, especially from day 17 schedule, that is climatology. So today's first topic, that is structure of the atmosphere, that is basics. So once we are aware of certain basics, so the rest of the current affair articles, so it will be easy. So second one is jet streams. So we'll understand about polar vortex, troposphere vortex, sudden stratospheric warming, Rossby waves, and then South Atlantic anomaly and Van Allen radiation belt. And then we will be dealing with space hurricanes and heliosphere. So these are the articles for today's session. So most of these articles, apart from the basics, so generally we don't find good content in the textbook. So all these are based on current affairs. So we have to integrate these topics with the static syllabus as well. Okay. So we'll start with today's session. So first session is structure of the atmosphere, which is basics. So we all know that the structure of atmosphere, it is highly complex, but its layering, it is now very well understood, and we know that there are different layers, right? We have troposphere, we have stratosphere, we have mesosphere, we have thermosphere, we have ionosphere as well, or exosphere or magnetosphere, right? So we know that structure of the atmosphere, it generally consists of 5 basic layers: troposphere, stratosphere, ionosphere, exosphere and magnetosphere. So I can divide the structure of atmosphere based on those things. So of all these layers, so when we consider the structure of atmosphere, so troposphere is the most important, especially with respect to the climatology, right? So we know that this is the layer where all the vital atmospheric processes, so it takes place. So we know that all climate and weather conditions on the earth's surface, so generally it takes place in troposphere. So you can see troposphere here, and you can see the average thickness of troposphere is around 10 kilometers. So when it comes to height, it is around 10 kilometers, so 10 to 15 kilometers, and it varies from North Pole to the equator. Okay, so you have to remember that. So we'll try to know different layers. So first one is troposphere. So generally it is 18 kilometer at the equator and 8 kilometer at the pole. So first important fact what we have to know is this difference in the average thickness of the troposphere. So as we can see here, 18 kilometer at the equator and 8 kilometer at the pole. So the major reason for this difference is near the equator, insolation is high, that is the surface becomes heated, right? So what happens when insolation, that is when there is direct sunlight, so the surface of the earth becomes heated and there will be conventional currents. So when conventional currents are strong, what happens? So there will be like some conventional currents which transport to the greater heights. That's the reason at equator the thickness of the troposphere is greatest. And usually troposphere at any latitude, so it is thicker in summer because of the insolation or because of the heating of the surface or conventional currents. And whenever there is winter, so the thickness of the troposphere will be less. Okay, so this particular difference first you have to know. And characteristics, so the temperature decreases with increase in height. So you can see in the figure, so as altitude increases, so you can see that the temperature is decreasing. So first important characteristics in troposphere is temperature will decrease with increase in height. And second important point is the temperature is less at equator at tropopause and high at pole at tropopause. So we have to know what is tropopause. So you can see in the figure, so between troposphere and stratosphere, so we can see there is one small layer called tropopause. So the transition that is separating the troposphere from the stratosphere, so we can call it as tropopause. And as you can see in this particular figure, so you can see the temperature variation in this tropopause layer. So usually the temperature at this particular region, it is constant. So majorly what I expect from students is when they are preparing a climatology chapter or structure of atmosphere, do revise or do give focus to the temperature variation. So you can see in this particular figure, temperature changes irregularly with height. So there are 3 parts of the graph. So one is where temperature is decreasing with respect to height, and one more is temperature is constant, and one more is there is rapid rise of temperature. So first you can see in the troposphere, so generally temperature is decreasing with increase in altitude or height. And when it comes to tropopause, you can see there is a constant. And when it comes to stratosphere, there is temperature inversion, right? So there is rapid rise of temperature with altitude or with height. So generally above 20 kilometers we can see, so there is temperature inversion and there is rapid rise of temperature. Even when you see the thermosphere layer, so even in the thermosphere layer, the temperature, it increases rapidly with altitude or with height. So this is what basics is important. So next important point, the source of heat in this layer is the surface of the earth. So generally in troposphere, the source of heat, it is the surface of the earth because of the heat released by the surface of the earth, and all weather phenomena, it takes place in this layer. So we already know. So all clouds and humidity, they are concentrated within the first 15 kilometers of this particular atmospheric layer. So second important layer is stratosphere. So stratosphere, it extends up to 50 kilometers. So you can see in the figure, so stratosphere, it generally starts from around 20 to 50 kilometers. And I have already discussed that stratosphere, so the temperature, it increases with respect to height. So the first important characteristics of this stratosphere is temperature increases with increase in height, and it is most conducive for flying jet aircraft. So as I told, all weather phenomena, it takes place in the troposphere. So usually there are no clouds or there is no humidity in this particular stratosphere area. That's the reason it is most conducive for flying jet aircrafts. So next important characteristics is, so ozone layer or ozone sphere. So stratosphere contains ozonosphere. So you can see here, so in stratosphere there is ozone. So we know the functioning of ozone. So generally UV, that is ultraviolet rays, so they are absorbed in this layer. That's the reason it increases the temperature. So usually troposphere, so the source of heat or temperature, it is because of the surface of the earth, whereas why there is rapid increase in temperature in stratosphere, it is because of the ozone and the UV absorption. So next important layer is mesosphere. So mesosphere, it generally extends from 50 to 80, right? So you can see here, so it is a transition. So a transition between stratosphere and thermosphere. So you can see here, so we have stratosphere and we have thermosphere. So the transition area is called mesosphere, and temperature decreases with increase in height here. So you can see the temperature is decreasing with respect to height, and meteors start burning in this particular layer. So you can see the meteor here, so it is burning in this particular layer. And next important point is the minimum temperature which is attained in atmosphere is at mesopause. So mesopause, you can see here, again this is a transition layer or transition line between mesosphere and thermosphere. So it is here where the minimum temperature is attained in the atmosphere. So it is generally around minus 90 degree Celsius. So next is thermosphere. So thermosphere is usually 80 to 480 kilometers, and it is the layer which contains, so first important point what we have to know is it contains the layer of ions called ionosphere. You have to note, even though ionosphere starts from mesosphere, but thermosphere is the layer where there is a lot of ions, and where we find ionosphere, and it absorbs all harmful cosmic and gamma and X-ray which are coming from the space. And thermosphere, so temperature increases with increase in height, as you can see in the figure. So these are some of the important basics which we have to know. So here try to know about thermosphere, because we will be using it in our coming discussion, and also stratosphere, which is important. So once we'll revise regarding stratosphere. So usually stratosphere, the temperature increases with increase in height, and it contains ozonosphere, and it is most conducive for flying jet aircrafts. Okay, just remember these things. So next important topic is jet streams. So jet streams is one of the important topic, and UPSC has asked questions on jet streams. So jet streams, again it was in news because recently in 2020 British Airway, so Boeing 747, so the British Airway flight, it set a new subsonic record for the fastest flight route which took place from New York to London. So this new subsonic record was achieved due to the strong jet stream which was prevalent in the North Atlantic region. Okay, so we'll try to understand what are jet streams and what are the effects or impact, or what are the benefits of this particular jet stream. So first important fact what we have to know about jet stream, it is narrow bands of strong wind. So jet streams are narrow bands of strong wind and they generally blow from west to east. Okay, so they generally blow from west to east and it blows all across the globe as you can see in the figure. So first important point we have to know is they are narrow bands of strong winds. And second important point is they generally blow from west to east and their speed is over 300 to 320 kilometers per hour. Okay, so major jet streams they are found near the upper level of the atmosphere, so around 9 to 16 kilometers from the Earth's surface. So you have to know usually they are found in upper levels of the atmosphere. So generally 9 to 16 kilometers of the atmosphere, that is troposphere. And next important fact is these jet streams they shift north or south depending on the season. And we have to know during winters, so the wind current is the strongest. Usually jet streams, that is the wind currents, they are the strongest and they are closer to the equator. So this is one of the important fact. And next important fact is major jet streams, they are the polar front, subtropical and tropical jet streams. As you can see in the figure, we can see polar jet stream, subtropical jet stream and tropical jet stream. And usually in India, the tropical jet stream, it influences the formation and also the duration of summer monsoon. That's the reason it is important to know about jet stream. So what are the facts which you have to remember? First one is it is narrow bands of strong winds and they are found in the upper levels of the atmosphere, that is troposphere, 9 to 16 kilometers. And generally these jet streams they blow from west to east and their speed is around 300 to 320 kilometers and they shift north or south depending on the season. And whenever winters are there, so these jet streams or these wind currents they are strongest and they are closer to the equator during the winter. So this is what you have to remember. So next we have to understand how are these jet streams caused, right? So why these jet streams are caused? So jet streams they form when warm air masses they meet the cold air masses in the atmosphere. So you can see in the figure whenever there is colder air mass, so there is this cold air mass and there is this warm air mass. So whenever this warm air masses they meet the cold air masses in the atmosphere, so what will happen? So usually the warm air masses, so they rise up higher in the atmosphere while the cooler air masses they sink down, right? So they replace the warm air. So this movement it will create an air current or it will create wind. So you have to remember when Earth's warmer air masses they meet cooler air masses, so the warm air rise up and cooler air sinks down to replace the warm air, and this particular movement it creates an air current of wind. Okay, so this is very important. So I can say jet stream it is a narrow band of wind, right? Or it is a type of air current that forms high in the atmosphere. So due to this particular movement of air masses. So next we will try to understand what are the effects of jet streams. So as I told already, so major jet streams they are found near the upper level of the atmosphere, that is 9 to 16 kilometers from the Earth's surface. And we know that usually aeroplanes they fly in the mid to upper troposphere or they fly in the stratosphere, right? So you can see in the figure, so generally the aeroplanes they fly in the mid to upper troposphere. So as you can see in the figure, so whenever the flights, so they are flying a route from west to east, they can generally make the trip faster due to this particular jet stream. So most commercial planes they fly at the jet stream level. So a strong jet stream it can provide the essential thrust or that tailwind so that the flight can travel from west to east easily and at faster pace. So the first important point is, so these jet streams they reduce the travel time for aeroplane flying the route from west to east. And second important point is it influences the formation and duration of summer monsoons and western disturbances in India. So I had told the major jet streams they are polar front and they are subtropical jet stream and there are tropical jet stream. So in India the tropical jet stream, so it influences the formation and duration of the summer monsoon. And also you have to remember this, because of this jet stream, so it is responsible for carrying the weather altering western disturbances especially over North India. And next we have to know these jet streams they are capable of moving storms and other weather systems especially from west to east. So for time being just know the effects of jet streams. So first one is it helps the flights so it reduces the travel time. Second one, it influences weather system across the globe, and with respect to India, so it influences the formation and duration of summer monsoon as well as weather altering western disturbances, especially in northwest India. So these are some of the important facts about jet streams. So next important topic is polar vortex or circumpolar vortex. So this particular topic is important for this year prelims because a lot of articles had come with respect to polar vortex. So first we'll try to understand what is this polar vortex. So this polar vortex is a low pressure area, a wide expanse of swirling cold air that is parked in polar region. So I'll make it simple. So just remember, a polar vortex, it is a large area of low pressure or cold air which is surrounding the polar regions, that is both the poles at the northern and southern hemisphere. So first important fact what you will remember is this polar vortex, it is nothing but a low pressure area or area of low pressure as well as cold air, and generally it is surrounding both the earth's poles, that is northern and southern hemispheres. So second important point is these polar vortexes, so they are a regular feature in the atmosphere spinning away around the poles. So again to make it simple, so these polar vortexes, they are a regular feature in the atmosphere. So they always exist. Where they exist? They always exist near the poles. So this is what you have to remember. And third important fact is polar vortexes, so they weaken in summer and they strengthen in winter. So this is very important. So you have to know polar vortex, so they generally weaken in summer and they strengthen in winter. So let's try to understand what happens during winter. So during winter, the polar vortex at the north pole, it expands. So we are considering just the north pole because it impacts a lot compared to the south pole. So polar vortex at the north pole, it expands and it sends the cold air southward. So because of this, what happens? The cold air, whatever is going southward, right? Because of this, there is outbreaks of cold temperature, especially in United States, Europe, and some parts of Asia also. So this is what you have to remember. So just remember that polar vortexes, they are weaker in summer and they are stronger in winter. And next important fact what you have to remember is this polar vortex or circumpolar vortex, it is not a feature that exists at the earth's surface. So it happens in the stratosphere. So this is the difference. So we just saw jet streams. So I told jet streams, it usually happens in upper levels, that is troposphere. When we take polar vortex, so usually it happens in the stratosphere and it does not exist at the earth's surface. So this is one more difference what we have to know. So we'll try to understand the polar vortex through pictorial representation. So as you can see in the figure, so we have this polar vortex, so a wide expanse of swirling cold air, right? So near the polar region, and we can see polar jet stream which is near the troposphere. So this particular polar jet stream, it is near the troposphere, whereas this polar vortex, so it is near the stratosphere. So the first difference what you have to know is the polar vortex, it is far above and typically they do not interact with the polar jet stream, because I told you, right, polar jet stream, it is in troposphere, whereas this polar vortex, it is a phenomena which is happening in the stratosphere. So they are far above and they typically does not interact with the polar jet stream. So next important point what we have to know is whenever the polar vortex is strong and stable, so in this first condition, so whenever it is strong and stable, so the jet stream, it stays farther north. So as compared in both the figures, so you can see jet stream here is northwards and it is confining all this cold air. So it is written in the figure, so cold air is contained, right? So here you have to know about the role of jet stream. So usually it keeps cold air contained over the Arctic and the mid latitudes warmer than usual. So whenever there is stable polar vortex, what happens? So the jet streams, they contain the cold air usually in the Arctic region itself. So let's see what is happening in the second case. So second case, we have this disturbed polar vortex. So whenever the Arctic polar vortex, whenever it is weak, so what is happening? The vortex can be pushed off the pole or split into two parts. So because of which the polar jet stream, so it also becomes weaker or wavy. So as you can see in the figure, the polar jet stream, they are like meanders. So what is happening in this particular case? So the warm air which was in the mid latitudes, So they are trying to push over the Arctic region. So the warm air is drawn into the Arctic, whereas the cold air, it is trying to move southwards. So as we can see in the second case, that is disrupted polar vortex. So what is happening in this particular system? The vortex is weakening. So what happens because of this? The polar vortex, it can break off and it is splitting into two parts and it is migrating southwards. So when it is migrating southwards, what it is doing? It is bringing all the cold air. So it is trying to push all the cold air towards the south. That's the reason areas as far as southern US, Europe, okay, so they all experience Arctic weather kind of conditions. So what happens in the first case? So whenever the low pressure system, that is the polar vortex, whenever it is strong and stable or healthy, what is happening? It keeps the jet stream traveling around the earth in a circular path. So we know that jet streams, they are a strong wind bands, right? So these strong wind bands, they play a crucial role in keeping the cold air. So it will confine the cold air to the Arctic region, that is the north, okay, and also warmer air to the south. But whenever the vortex weakens, so just know whenever the vortex, so it is disrupted or weakens, so what will happen? There will be break off, and even this particular jet stream, it does not have enough force to maintain its usual path, and because of which the jet streams become wavy or meandering kind of shape. So because of this wavy or rambling or meandering pattern, what happens? Whatever the cold air which was collected or confined, they will push towards the south along with the rest of the polar vortex system. So in simple terms, we can explain this concept. So during winter, what is happening? The polar vortex at the North Pole expands. So why it is expanding? Because of the disruption or because of weakening of the vortex. So what happens when the polar vortex weakens or breaks off? So the cold air, it will try to push towards the south. So I had provided here that it will send the cold air southward. So because of this, what happens? So the countries like US, Europe, and even some part of Asia, so they experience the cold breaks or Arctic kind of weather. So this is why this polar vortex phenomena is important. Even though it is not happening near the Earth's surface, so it is happening in stratosphere. So there is this impact because the cold air from the Arctic region, it is not just confined to the Arctic region, but it spreads or it blows towards the United States, portions of Europe and Asia as well. So try to know these concepts. Maybe a question can be framed on polar vortex. So try to remember about polar vortex because so usually polar vortex, so the role of polar vortex, it strengthens in the winter because of winter the cold air is blown towards southward, okay, and whenever there are summers, so the role or the impact of polar vortex, so it weakens, okay. So this particular difference you have to know. So next important topic is troposphere vortex. So similar to stratospheric polar vortex, we have tropospheric vortex. So now this particular troposphere vortex will be easy to understand because we already know what is polar vortex, which is in the Earth's stratosphere. So similar to this stratosphere polar vortex, so we have one more similar structure in the atmosphere, that is troposphere vortex or tropospheric polar vortex. As you can see in this particular figure, so you can see tropospheric polar vortex, usually it is happening in troposphere, and stratospheric polar vortex. So the best part about this topic is tropospheric polar vortex, they are nothing but the jet streams. So we already know jet streams. So what was the major role of jet stream? Here it was to confine the cold air, right? So what is the role of tropospheric polar vortex? The major function is to confine cold air near the pole. So we'll try to understand what is the difference between tropospheric polar vortex and a stratospheric polar vortex. So these both are like cousins, right? So stratospheric polar vortex, they are higher altitude cousin. So when you take troposphere polar vortex, so it is a younger or lower altitude cousin. So first important difference is, as the name says, they exist in troposphere, and stratospheric polar vortex, they exist in stratosphere. And second important difference is, as you can see, the stratosphere polar vortex, it is smaller. So compared to the tropospheric polar vortex. So we can add one more point here. So usually tropospheric polar vortex, they are significantly larger compared to the stratospheric polar vortex. Second important point what we have to know is the edge of the tropospheric polar vortex. So they typically lie within the core of the westerlies and they generally lie between 40 to 50 degree latitude. So you can see here, so generally they lie in the 40 to 50 degree latitude, whereas the stratospheric polar vortex, so they are maximum around 60 degree latitude. So usually stratospheric polar vortex, they are confined to the 60 degree latitude, whereas this particular tropospheric polar vortex, so generally they lie within the core of the westerlies, that is between 40 to 50 degree latitude. The third important difference is the tropospheric vortex, it exists all around the year, but the stratospheric polar vortex, they are stronger during the winter. So I can say they exist only during the fall to spring, so when there is no solar heating in the polar region. So these are the major differences, but there are some common points. So usually these jet streams or tropospheric polar vortex, even they are strongest in the winter when the polar regions are coldest. And when it comes to stratosphere polar vortex, even they strengthen during the winter and then they break down as sunlight returns to the polar region in the spring. Okay, so you have to remember this particular point. So both the tropospheric and stratospheric polar vortices, they are basic features of the Earth's climatology, and their existence is neither unusual nor a manifestation of major changes in the global atmospheric circulation. So you have to know the difference between troposphere vortex and stratospheric polar vortex. So next important topic, that is sudden stratospheric warming. So just now we saw that there is stratospheric polar vortex which resides in this stratospheric layer. So we know that stratosphere, it is a layer of the atmosphere which extends from around 15 kilometers to 50 kilometers, right, above the surface. So stratosphere, it is from 15 kilometers to 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So this is the layer where the stratospheric polar vortex resides. And just now we learned that this polar vortex, it can significantly influence weather in the mid latitudes. So now let's try to understand sudden stratospheric warming. So it is a phenomena where there is a jump in temperature in the stratosphere. So we know that in stratosphere temperature keeps rising. So it keeps rapidly rising with increasing altitude or height. Okay, but still there is a phenomena called sudden stratospheric warming where there will be sudden jump in temperatures in the atmosphere. So which is often linked to the onset of cold winter. So during winter time, so there is usually sudden jump in the temperature in the stratosphere. So we will try to understand. So from prelims perspective, just remember that during this sudden stratospheric warming, what is happening? So temperature of the stratosphere, it can increase by up to 50 degrees Celsius, and the winds in the stratosphere, they can reverse from westerly to easterly. So just now we saw the phenomena, what happens during the polar vortex, right? So we know these two concepts, what happens when there is stable polar vortex and when there is disruptive polar vortex or wavy polar vortex. So just now we saw what happens in the wavy polar vortex or disruptive polar vortex. So here the cold air, it moves towards the south, whereas warm air, it moves towards the north. So this SSW phenomena, that is sudden stratospheric warming, it is closely associated with this polar vortex breakdown, right? So we know that the vortex will break down or weaken, and then there is fast blowing of bands of winds across the mid latitude. So if we have understood the disruptive or wavy polar vortex where there is weak jet stream, so we will be able to understand the second point, that is sudden stratospheric warming. It is a significant disruption of the stratospheric polar vortex, right? So we know that this one is a disruptive polar vortex. So SSW is nothing but the phenomena which is dealing with this disruptive polar vortex. And we know that under the disruptive case, so the cold air, it keeps pushing towards the southwards, and the warm air which will be pushing towards the north. So cold air will descend and the warm air will increase rapidly. So because of this, the temperature of the stratosphere, it can increase by up to 50 degrees Celsius, and the winds in the stratosphere, they reverse now. So for prelims, we have to know what happens when this sudden stratospheric warming, or the temperature suddenly jumps in the stratosphere, right? So what happens, what kind of effects it will have, we have to know. So it is closely, so we know that SSW, it is closely associated with polar vortex breakdown or disruptive polar vortex. So already we saw what happens whenever this cold air, it is moving towards the south. So regions of Europe, Siberia or US, so there and all, there is increased possibility of snowstorms as well as and also Arctic kind of cold weather conditions. And second important point with regard to the effect of this particular sudden stratospheric warming is how it will impact the global weather, which is starting from uppermost layer of the atmosphere, that is from thermosphere till the tropical regions, that is in the troposphere. So this sudden stratospheric warming, it has the capacity to impact the total weather conditions in the different atmospheric layers, starting from stratosphere, mesosphere and thermosphere to the tropical regions. And it can also impact satellites, navigation and other space-based human endeavors. And according to some recent research and scientists and also IMD, so the southern India, which received unusual heavy rainfall during the January month, so it is attributed to this particular sudden stratospheric warming. So the scientists are telling one of the reason for the rainfall in the tropics, especially over Tamil Nadu during winter days, so it is due to this polar sudden stratospheric warming. So the scientists, they are trying to bridge the relationship between the Arctic region weather conditions and the polar vortex conditions with the Indian climatic conditions or monsoon or tropical cyclones or winter rainfall over the southern region. So that's the reason this particular sudden stratospheric warming, it was in news. So you have to know the sudden stratospheric warming, it is nothing but it is associated with the breakdown of the polar vortex, that is disruptive polar vortex, which we have already covered. So which we had already covered earlier in the polar vortex topic. So even though the distance between the southern tip of the Tamil Nadu and that of the Arctic polar vortex, okay, it is very far, so it is around 7,800 kilometer, but still scientists are saying that there is a relationship and there is an impact on the southern weather conditions of Tamil Nadu or even on the monsoon. And even there are many recent research which has concluded the existence of strong connection between this sudden stratospheric warming and extensive changes throughout the Earth's atmosphere. That's the reason this particular topic is important. So let's move on to next topic, that is Rossby waves. So for prelims, just remember these Rossby waves, they are also known as planetary waves, and they naturally occur in rotating fluids and they form along the equator, and they usually move from east to west. So usually they move from east to west. And these Rossby waves, they are formed as a result of rotation of the planet and Earth's geography. So these are the things which you have to remember. So Rossby waves, they are formed because of result of rotation of the planet as well as the Earth's geography. And Rossby waves we can classify into two types. One is oceanic Rossby waves and atmospheric Rossby waves. And next you have to remember that these Rossby waves, they are very important when it comes to climatology, because these waves affect the planet's weather and climate. Because these Rossby waves, they act in the transfer of heat from the tropics towards the poles, and they send cold air to the tropics. So we can understand this with this particular pictorial representation. So first, as you can see, the jet stream begins to undulate and then Rossby waves begin to form. So those Rossby waves, it will develop and cold air occupies troughs of low pressure, and finally waves are pinched off, forming cyclones of cold air. So this is how the transfer of heat takes place. So for prelims, just remember Rossby waves are also known as planetary waves, and they naturally occur in rotating fluids, and these waves form as a result of rotation of planet and also Earth's geography. And there are two types of Rossby waves. One is oceanic Rossby waves and atmospheric Rossby waves. So we'll try to understand oceanic Rossby waves. So we know that waves in the ocean, they come in many different shapes and sizes. So unlike waves that break along the shore, these Rossby waves, they are pretty huge, and they are undulating movements of the ocean that stretch horizontally across the planet for hundreds of kilometers. And oceanic Rossby waves are so large and massive that they can change Earth's climate conditions. And along with rising sea levels, king tides and the effects of El Nino, this oceanic Rossby wave, they contribute to the high tides and coastal flooding in some regions of the world. And the vertical motion of Rossby waves is small along the oceanic surface and large along the deeper thermocline. So we know that deeper thermocline means the transition area between the ocean's warm upper layer and the colder depths. So due to small vertical movement along the ocean surface, these oceanic Rossby waves, they are undetectable by the human eye. So scientists typically they rely on satellite radar in order to detect the massive oceanic Rossby waves. Okay, so when it comes to atmospheric Rossby waves, they form primarily as the result of the Earth's geography, and Rossby waves they help transfer heat from the tropics towards the poles and cold air towards the tropics in an attempt to return atmosphere to balance. And they also help locate the jet stream and mark out the track of surface low temperature system. The slow motion of these waves often result in fairly long and persistent weather patterns. So these Rossby waves are very important because the influence that these Rossby waves have on the weather and climatic conditions of the earth, it is very important. So next topic, that is South Atlantic anomaly and Van Allen radiation belt. So again this South Atlantic anomaly, it was in news. So as per the reports and articles, so the magnetic field around the earth on an average it is losing around 10% of its strength over the last 2 centuries. So this particular South Atlantic anomaly, it deals with the magnetic field of the earth. So what is this SAA? So South Atlantic anomaly, it is a stretch between Africa and South America. So South Atlantic anomaly, it is referred to the behavior of Earth's geomagnetic field in an area between Africa and South America. So this is what you have to remember. And next you have to know the South Atlantic anomaly, it is an area where the Earth's inner Van Allen radiation belt, it comes closest to the Earth's surface. And this SAA, it is the near Earth region where Earth's magnetic field is weakest. So this is very important. So this is the region, that is Africa and South America, as you can see in the figure. So this is the region where the Earth magnetic field is weakest. So since this particular region, the magnetic field is weakest, what is happening? It is letting the harmful particle radiation from the sun come near the surface. And this South Atlantic anomaly, it also affects the satellite that pass through this particular area, and it can tamper with the navigation system. So since this SAA is the region where Earth's magnetic field is weakest, so it has been the spot where harmful particle radiation from the sun come near the surface, and also it affects the satellite that pass through the area. So one should understand why this South Atlantic anomaly is caused. It is because of the tilt of magnetic axis and the molten core of the earth. So both cause the dent in the magnetic field. And as the earth's north pole and south pole, they are not perfectly aligned, the tilt in the axis lead to this particular anomaly. So next, students should know why this particular region, that is Africa and South America, so this particular South Atlantic anomaly region, why it is weak. So two important factors. One is the tilt of the magnetic axis, and second one is the molten core. So because of these two things, there is dent in the Earth's magnetic field. So also try to know what is Van Allen radiation belt. So it is the zone of energetic charged particles that are captured and that are held around a planet by the planet's magnetic field. So Earth has two such belts, and sometimes others may be temporarily created. So for time being, for prelims, just know that this is the zone where energetic charged particles are captured, and it is due to the planet's magnetic field. So let's move on to next topic, that is space hurricane. So this particular topic was in news because for the first time scientists, they had discovered that this particular space hurricane, it had happened over the North Pole in the Earth's upper atmosphere. So this space hurricane, it is a form of environmental phenomena where instead of wind and rain, charged electrons and plasma, they make up the majority of the storm. So these space hurricane, they are similar to the hurricanes which happens across the globe. And generally these hurricanes, they rain electrons and they are known to occur in the Earth's lower atmosphere. But this is the first time that scientists have discovered a space hurricane in the upper atmosphere. So it is important to note that the researchers, they have identified this high latitude phenomena, so which is remarkably they are similar to the tropospheric hurricane, but this particular space hurricane, it has plasma and it showers electrons, so that is the difference. So as you can see in the figure, so space hurricane, it rains electrons into the ionosphere and it causes a stunning effect, that is green aurora below the hurricane. So after this particular research and study, so scientists have suggested that space hurricanes, they are widespread phenomena, and in space already astronomers, they have spotted such space hurricanes on Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, etc. So for prelims, just know that this space hurricane, it is nothing but a environmental phenomena where instead of wind and rain, we have electrons and plasma associated with this. And second important point is it can occur both in lower atmosphere as well as upper atmosphere. So next important topic is heliosphere. So recently NASA scientists, they have developed a new prediction about the shape of this heliosphere. So for prelims, just we'll try to understand what is this heliosphere. So this heliosphere, as you can see in the figure, so it is a kind of bubble, right? It is a kind of bubble or it is a kind of shield. So this heliosphere, it acts as a shield to our solar system and it will guard us against the rest of the galaxy from particles which are shot after a supernova. So this particular heliosphere, it acts as a shield or a bubble and it will save us from the powerful and luminous stellar explosion. And you have to know this heliosphere, they are created because of the sun, that is the bubble or the shield of the heliosphere, it is continuously inflated by the plasma originating from the sun known as the solar wind. So just remember this heliosphere, it is a vast bubble like region or it is a shield which surround our solar system and it is created by the sun. So how it is created by the sun? Because of the plasma which is originating from the sun known as the solar wind. Okay, so try to remember these concepts. So I know that most of the concepts were very boring, okay, but do revise and just know the important keywords, okay, so it might be important for exam. So these are today's topic. We'll meet in the next session.